the story you're telling is more important than a lot of the bells and whistles that we've used to tell them in the past.
Welcome to the Mastering E-commerce Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Eitan Koter, co-CEO of Vimy. In an era of rising acquisition costs and increased competition, this podcast is dedicated to helping you drive sales, engage customers, and build meaningful communities so you can turn passive visitors into active buyers. Now let's get started with the episode. Hello listeners, and welcome to another episode of Mastering E-commerce Marketing. Today I'm joined by Stewart Cohen, owner, executive producer, and director of Stewart Cohen Pictures, an award-winning production company. With decades of experience in commercial storytelling, and as a leader of Superstock, a massive media licensing house, Stewart knows how to create visuals that captivate and convert. He's here to share insights on crafting compelling brand content, directing talent, and staying authentic in today's fast-paced marketing world. Stewart, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Eitan. I'm thrilled to be here. I've loved your show, so it's an honor.
Great, and we are here to discuss great things around video and content and being authentic and how to differentiate. But before we start, Stewart, can you share with us 3 words that best describe what matters most to you?
Ooh, that's a tough one, Eitan, but I will say good values, fun, and engagement.
Nice, love it.
I won't even try to describe any of that because I could go on for an hour, but yeah, we could continue.
Why these 3 words are important to you?
Well, I think I love to bring good values to the kind of work we're doing. It's important to really, the core of who we are good people, and we like to tell good stories. We like to have fun, and we're also engaged. When we take on a project, we are totally immersed in that project until we deliver. So, and engagement goes with our clients, engagement goes with our crews, and engagement goes with the talent that we have in front of the camera. Yeah. So, without good engagement, we're nothing. And without having fun, we're nothing. And then, of course, we need to tell a valuable story.
Yes. Everyone are just fighting for attention, for engagement. And you've been in the industry for so many years and creating content in variety of formats, into variety of sectors. What's changed lately? What do you see in the market that is interesting, to discuss and mention?
Well, I think, of course, the way video is being delivered and the way stories are being told has changed over the years. We've gone from what was a traditional 30-second commercial, 30-second spot, all of a sudden to, vertical TikToks, which get more engagement than any $1 million commercial. So I think, what we've learned is that the story you're telling is more important than a lot of the bells and whistles that we've used to tell them in the past.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And this is obviously the use of technology, and a lot of things are changing. We know that video consumption is still growing, both for short form videos, long form videos, and like YouTube is growing as well, right? With long form, and obviously TikTok and Instagram, and like these things are still growing, and it's really amazing to see that people are probably, when they have real pain or real problem, they want to dive deep, right? They want to spend more time learning, so they are happy to read more or even watch longer form videos. So when you work with customers, obviously there is a lot of onboarding, process that you usually investigate and try to search, and you need to balance obviously some creativity, ideas and storytelling with, budgets and marketing targets that are more, numbers and figures and ROIs. And so how do you usually work? Well, how the onboarding usually works, and how do you just, make small decision around how to deliver videos?
Sure. Well, one thing that happens with us, Eitan, is when we get a project, we get the brief which is, they want to tell the story. And we also get a list of deliverables like up front. So we know how this client wants to tell the story, whether it's a traditional TV commercial, social pieces. And a lot of times today's world, it goes from a traditional commercial and then a cut down for social, and then even like, a cut down for, vertical formats. So we see all this in advance. And, the one thing that each of these platforms is trying to do is keep eyeballs on the platform. And that means engagement.
Mm-hmm.
One of our biggest challenges usually is telling the stories in a shorter amount of time. So, I don't know about you, but one thing I could tell is when you're watching a video and they're just trying to keep you watching, they keep stringing you along. And it bothers me so much. And because our goal is really to tell the story in the shortest amount of time. I want to give you the whole story in whether it's a minute or in 30 seconds. And that way I don't want to waste your time. I want to respect who you are as a viewer, and I want to deliver something of merit to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So where content creation and videos comes into play, taking into consideration, buyers, stages of their buying journey, right? Where do usually people contact you that they need some help?
Well, I guess we're a little bit downstream because we usually get it, especially if you're dealing with an advertising agency. They've been talking to their client about the brief that the client gave them. They've come up with ways to define the brief and deliver it. And then the ad agency comes to production companies to say, okay, here's our brief. Let's figure out how to tell the story and how to do it efficiently and for X budget. And that's usually the hard part, because everybody, wants to do a lot. And of course, in today's day and age, I think there's a little bit of a squeeze on budgets. So what we've learned, and taking it from social even, is how to be more efficient with dollars and how to be more efficient with filmmaking and still getting the same kind of production value out of it.
Mm-hmm. So this is just using better technology or try to streamline various processes, or also development on the back end side of things, right?
Exactly. I mean, I think technology has made it easier to produce projects. If you think about all the tools we use, so it's not just cameras, it's just the tools we use in pre-production and communicating with clients, in delivering. All these tools streamline the process. And what used to take, call it 4 weeks, we can now do in a week.
Yeah.
But right there, it reduces the costs for the ultimate client anyway. And then once you get to filmmaking, of course, there's, we straddle this line of traditional filmmaking. We use big cameras and, like cinematic tools, but yet sometimes we're being pushed to do it in a very social format. So, we're trying to make big cameras move like phones. And we just did something last week, actually, that for a technology company that are making chips for phones. And we shot on these new phones that are coming out, as well as shot on like an 8K RED camera. And so we haven't done the post-production yet. And I'm very curious to see it, because some of the technology that they're putting into phones today is insane. It's so advanced, and it's kind of exciting. It is very exciting.
Yes.
I kind of wish, it would be great if you were still in high school today, to be growing up with the tools the way they are today. It's going to be a totally different landscape, totally different world going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. So for any agency out there or a company who want to reach out and work with the production companies, what are the important prerequisite or the characteristics that are important, to evaluate when working with the production company?
Well, I think first of all, finding a team that's willing to see your vision and be collaborative. I think there are a lot of combative relationships, that it's never smooth. And I look at it like, the clients that we get, we tend to keep because I really go into it in a collaborative format. And if I don't want to work on a project or work with a specific company, I'm just not, it's not going to work from the beginning. And usually the relationships that we found, we continue to have because we really, once we sign on to a project, we care. And I sometimes say that, y- they're relieved when they find us because what was their problem becomes our problem. How do you produce this? How do you do it smoothly, efficiently? We tend to do a lot of pharma work as well. And in that space, a lot of times you're dealing with real patients. And so, it's really important to the client and the agency that they're hiring somebody that's going to respect their patients and engage them in a process that is enjoyable. And because, what we do reflects on everybody. And if we walk onto a production and, are not very accommodating and not, enjoyable to work with, it resonates and everybody hears about it, so it's really important for us to be engaged with the client, make sure we understand their values, make sure we understand their parameters, and really we become the face of the client. And you don't think about it that way, but it is a responsibility, and it's I've never thought of it like that, but we treat everybody with respect, and I think it comes back and it shows.
Yeah, so like always, it's people first, right? Because it's yes, there is maybe a brief, but it's a long process just to figure out and makes a good video that really achieve the marketing KPIs, right? Let's say, but still makes the customer happy in terms of work environment and just managing discussions and conflicts. And this is just the foundation for everything. And videos just in general just helps a lot with just building this relationship. And so you mentioned this pharma company and also reaching out to sometimes to a variety of audiences, right? So how do you plan a campaigns that resonates with variety of audiences?
Well, I'm sorry. How do you, I miss,
How do you plan usually video campaigns and marketing copy that resonates, with audiences? And sometimes it's like huge and big audience that has, variety of characteristics.
but I mean, I think authenticity and really, um, telling a story and getting our talent, the people on the other side of the camera, the actors or real people. Like one thing I do is we work with everything from celebrities to professional talent to real people. They may be people that work in a store, or they may be people that work in a factory, or they may be patients of a pharma company. So really what I love, and I think why I'm still doing this, is I love the interaction with people. And I always say, as long as you put a person on the other side of the camera, I'm really great with it. If you put a bowl of ice cream that you want to shoot, that's not my thing. But if there's a person that I could communicate with, when I tend to be able to get a good performance out of anybody, just because I really love people. I love engaging with them and talking to them. And I think that and disarming, it's kind of just like make it real. And that's what makes it fun. and
So
I learned we, what makes it great also for me, Eden, is like, we step into all these different people's lives. And, to me, that's become my education. That's how I learn, cause one week we might be, in a steel mill in Indonesia, and the next week we might be with a celebrity on a set in Hollywood. So it it's a complete education of what's going on in the world, and it's fascinating, and it's so much fun.
yes. So you mentioned the people behind, not behind, in front of the camera, right? And you would love to work with them. Some of them are obviously professional. Some of them are celebrities, but a lot of them are probably like the company owner or some of the employees, right? And what tips you can provide? What's some of the tips that you can provide to those people when they just need to put themselves in front of a camera? It's more just a growing requirement for leaders these days to create content. It's not in the job description, which I believe it will be as part of the job description. Yeah, integrate content. So share with us some of your experiences and what are the tips that you can provide for those people.
Well, to provide tips to people on the, in front of the camera,
Yeah.
it's really interesting because, so many people have trouble, say, with public speaking, but now it's even different. Now you have to be on camera. And one of the most difficult classes I ever took in school, in film school, was acting for directors. And believe it or not, it wasn't a big class. It wasn't, a long, it wasn't a whole string of classes. It was one. I remember one class one night when I had to get in front of the camera, and I learned compassion.
Mm.
I learned how, you know, people can be so animated, and the second you turn that camera on, they freeze. And I've been that way, and I do that now, with my crew. I'll get on the other side of the camera once in a while, and you realize how, and there are lights everywhere, and there's camera, and there's a bunch of people looking at you, and how do you be natural? So my tips to people on the other side of the camera is, well, one, of course, try to pretend that there's nobody there. And again, it's the communication with the director that's important, is, and sometimes if you're a business leader and you're being interviewed by somebody, sometimes the director really doesn't care, but yet you're still presenting yourself. So I think practicing, I hate to say this, but practicing in front of a mirror is not a bad thing. Now you can put up your phone, and you could record yourself, and you could see how your gestures, your mannerisms, your tonality. So I will say, try not to talk too fast. A lot of people, of that I see, try to talk fast. If say you're interviewing, say, a CEO or something, when people get nervous in front of the camera, they tend to just try to talk fast. And so just slow down, take a breath. And unless it's live TV, it really doesn't matter because somebody's going to edit it anyway. And so, yeah, I say practice. I mean, you always feel weird setting up your camera and then recording yourself, but I think it helps. And to your point, in today's day and age that we're going to be in front of the camera more often, it becomes more and more important.
Yes, yes. I love the compassion part. First, compassion for yourself, right? And then for probably the others that are your directors or your people are just helping you out. So that's in like in like a process you have to do with yourself first, and then you have the ability to just put it out there, right? And again, yeah.
Here's something like, when I finish doing what I'm doing, I think I decided I'm going to be an old man. I'm going to take dancing lessons, and I'm going to be an old man that dances on camera.
Oh wow, amazing, amazing. It's like TikTok, there's so many amazing trends that you see very old people just, singing songs like 30, 40 years ago. It's really nice. And yeah, there is no one cares how you look, right? How old are you? I mean, the content should resonate. It should be, everything is about the value of the content. Obviously, as I said before, smart editing helps a lot with engagement, right? And that's, I think, probably something that you put a lot of focus on, because we're not talking about video for like entertainment. We're talking about video for business, right?
Right.
Reasons. What are the main differences for you between just creating, I don't know, like a feature film versus business videos?
That's a great question. I think the main difference is it's not entertainment for entertainment's sake, but yet what we're trying to do is entertain in the name of commerce. So it's a fine line, because you can't be super dry that nobody's engaged. So somehow it needs to be somewhat entertaining, but yet featuring a product of sorts.
Yeah.
Some things are totally informational, but at the same time, even then, it's like, how do you keep people from clicking away? We live in a world of people with ADD that, you know, you know, can't keep their attention on things for very long. So you need to grab them and keep them entertained, unless it's, of course, a product they're already looking for. And that's where it gets into the whole craziness of technology today is, if I'm having a conversation with you here today and we're talking about a specific car, the next thing you and I are going to see on our feeds are ads for that car, which is great. That's kind of nuts.
Yes, that's the way it's working, right? Today. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, people are just looking for pure entertainment, and those videos are, just providing entertainment, and you will capture audience that are just looking for entertainment. So maybe you have like huge number of followers, but they're not relevant for your business, right? Like, and if you,
And you see that now, that people are just making videos for fun and they have huge followings. I mean, the challenge we face, as small business owners, is that we're still doing it as a business. We have employees, we have to pay employees, we have families, we need to we're doing it as a business.
sure.
So it's not just fun and games. We are in the world of commerce, and yet there are a lot of times we pretend that we're not, because we're just trying to make engaging content.
Mhm. Yeah, because what we see like in online is that people who are looking for entertainment will keep, searching and looking for entertainment, and people are looking for education, they will look for educational content. So it's just, yeah, I think for business, focus more on education. Yes, make it entertaining, but more on education. And then it will capture also audience that are relevant and might be, customers in the future. Again, building relationship first, provide value, and people then they are more open to accept a proposal from you. This is, like, again, my belief and how I see things are working. So Stuart, some of the, you know, mistakes that you see companies are doing when they decide to go to, spend some money on videos.
So, well, I think mistakes is probably not finding the proper vendor to help work with them. Again, it's a partnership, and you realize you get to know your customers and your clients, very well. So I think finding the right partners to team up with is number one, and finding the right ad agency, if you're working with an ad agency that's truly going to tell your story. They're really engaged in the product. And I think that's the key,
And I'm sure it's all obviously to say that no one has like, answers to everything. It's all about experimentation, right? Trying things, see what resonates, right? You need to have this patience to break through.
Well,
Yeah.
That's correct. And if you think about some of the best advertising you've ever seen, it's usually from companies that have had some mistakes also. You got to be willing to fail to win. And,
Yes.
sometimes you swing for the fences and you fail. So you need to make sure that you shoot enough that you could recraft the story in a different way that
Hmm.
that might work.
Of course, of course. And Stuart, why businesses needs to take video more seriously as like a very strategic, marketing vehicle for their businesses. I mean, obviously they're doing so many things and there are always like new channels that you can invest in marketing, but we see that video is just growing. But why do you think video is so important? How you can convince more companies, to invest in video?
I think video is important because people want to connect with a company at a certain level. And video is the best medium to really tell the story of who you are and to get people engaged with you. And to find a long-term customer for a company, you need people that believe in your brand. And once they stop believing in your brand, they're gone. So the best way to tell the story is through video.
Interesting. And just expediting everything because radio is much more engaging form of communication, right? It's very emotionally, when you see someone is, in front of a camera and yeah, the ability to deliver messages and in a much faster way, in a more direct way, I think it's helps a lot. Stuart, let's talk about the other side of your business, about Superstock, right? Please tell us more about that.
Well, Superstock is a licensing company that I took over a couple of years ago. It's actually a 50-year-old company that that was started in New York City in the 1970s, and it's had some iterations, and it ended up, based here in Texas, um, in right around during COVID, and we managed 25 million assets, of which it was predominantly a still photography licensing house, similar to a Getty or a Shutterstock, so a stock agency house. And then we of course started licensing video as well. And what we do there is we really work with companies again to become their existing content partner. So if a company is putting together a video and say they need a skyline in New York City or, something that they're not able to shoot, we're there to help facilitate that for them. We have content from all over the world. We have contributors from all over the world. We also own and manage some vintage collections. We recently acquired a collection that spans back to the 1920s of for business that is just this classic advertising imagery from the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, and people love it. The whole throwback to what was is still a big deal. And I have a whole separate team running that company, and these are a lot of them have been in the licensing world for years, and they help customers look for the content they're needing. So we could do free research for the company. We could present them with options, and again, we hope to become long-term partners with them. And we offer, everything from one-time use to subscriptions. So however somebody wants to work.
Yes. Wow, it's amazing. It's like a different, although it's still a B2B type of business, right? But it's more of a longer tail reach out, right, to customers. Yeah.
It is a B2B business. There's some B2C in there in that people buy pictures for their walls, to display on their walls because we have a lot of great work that you'd want on your walls. But everybody at one time, there are a lot of companies that just license imagery because it's cheaper than going out and shooting it. And we've demonstrated time and time again that you could even create videos without ever hiring a production company. There's enough content out there, if you could find it, that you could craft stories.
Great, Stuart. So how people can find you and, the various businesses that you
Well,
manage?
absolutely. Well, obviously, you could always find me, just Stewart Cohen, on LinkedIn, or Instagram is SC Pictures. Our websites for production, stewartcohen.com or SC Pictures. And of course, Superstock is just superstock.com. Um, you could reach out to me for anything, and I could put you in touch with whomever on our team can help best facilitate whatever your needs are. Yeah, we love it, and to your point about the different businesses, if you think about it, it's content, and so Superstock has existing content and we create new content, but I love visuals, and that's the core. So I love visuals. So we're working, acquiring these older collections and creating new collections, because it's just, we are telling the story of society and through the years, and it's all available.
It's always great when you can just attach like a higher cause, right, to the day-to-day job that you do, right? So there is always, it's much more meaningful. There is a lot to, to focus on. It's not just the day-to-day things, but as you said, sharing history and just bringing some passion into it. It's always great to see. So well done.
Exactly.
Well done.
Exactly. Thank you.
Great, Stuart. It was a pleasure. Wish you all the best.
Eden, thank you so much for having me. It was great to talk to you. I mean, you're a wealth of information yourself, and I am a forever fan of your show. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Stuart. And we will add all the different websites and your information in the episode show notes, of course, for our listeners to check out. We highly encourage you to check various Stuart businesses, both on the production company and, of course, on the Superstock. And all the best. Great year. Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the end of this episode. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe so you won't miss any of our future content. Explore Vimeo, the video commerce platform that includes live shopping, shoppable video, and social commerce capabilities. Visit Vimeo at www.vimeo.net. We appreciate your support and look forward for bringing you more valuable insight in our next episode.